Welcome to True Paranormal, the podcast, with your host, Leo Rizzuti. Every week we will explore such topics as ghosts, demons, poltergeist, haunted history, time shifts, cryptozoology, and other aspects of the paranormal through listener-submitted accounts, documentary studies, and interviews with the investigators that dedicate their lives to searching for proof of the unknown. So get a fresh cup of coffee, dim the lights, relax, and get ready for a short visit to the realm of the true paranormal. Hey guys, Leo Rizzuti here. Welcome to another episode of True Paranormal, the podcast. We have got a really special treat lined up for you guys this week. We sat down with Dalton Jones and Jessica Vick of Southern Souls Paranormal. Southern Souls is a paranormal research and haunting investigation group out of Alabama. And to say these guys are a top-notch team would be a vast understatement. I can tell you that I have very rarely run into, in all my years of doing investigations and dealing with the paranormal, a group as cohesive and as unified as this team is. They treat each other like family, and that comes with a lot of humor and a lot of great attitude and a lot of seriousness when it comes to investigating the paranormal. We initially sat down thinking it was going to be probably an hour-long conversation, and that went out the window pretty quickly. It ended up being a little over 3 hours, which is why we are breaking this into two parts. In part one, we did a lot of talking about how Jessica and Dalton both got involved in the paranormal in the beginning, how their teams came together, what their philosophy is when it comes to building teams and how to run investigations, and even how to filter out who they're going to be investigating and why they're going to be investigating. And then we also went into some areas of rules for investigators during investigations, and it's just a lot of really good advice. If you are a paranormal researcher, or if you are thinking about getting into doing any kind of investigations, or if you're just really interested in what goes on behind the scenes of investigation work, this is going to be a great episode for you. They throw out so many nuggets and so many pieces of just great advice that I told them at one point, if I had somebody have the kind of conversation with me when I was their age and I was just getting started in doing investigations, if I had had somebody tell me the kind of things that they put out in this episode, it would have saved me at least 2 to 3 years of making really boneheaded mistakes. So again, if you're interested in any aspect of that, if you're thinking about doing investigations, if you've got a team and things just aren't clicking the way you want them to click, take a listen to this episode and take their advice to heart, because these guys have got it going on in a really strong way. So without any further ado, let's get to our conversation with Dalton Jones and Jessica Vick of Southern Souls Paranormal. Enjoy. Hey guys, we're joined this week with Jessica Vick and Dalton Jones from Southern Souls Paranormal. They are a haunting investigation group out of Alabama, and that makes me feel great because they are Southerners, and I love talking to the Southerners. It makes me feel right at home. If you guys could, I know a little bit about your group, but if y'all could go into a little bit about your background and about what got you into doing haunting investigations, and really what Southern Souls Paranormal is all about.
Okay, for me, it started at a young age with, watching Scooby-Doo, as most, kids, back then did. That was my show, and, I watched it every day. I was obsessed with it, actually, as bad as I hate to say that, but I mean, it's true. And then, as I got older, about 10 or 11, I started watching Ghostbusters, and that was like my favorite movie of all time. I mean, it still is one of my favorites. And at about 14 or 15, I got into Ghost Hunters International and Ghost Adventures. And seeing those people do that, it was it was, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I want to try that. So, about 3 or 4 months down the road, I ordered some equipment, just some small things, a cheap EMF detector and, a PSP7. And that was what I worked with at the time. And I was just, testing it out and then using the recorder on my phone, but now, I realize that phone recorders don't work as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But since the beginning, I've always been about helping people, and I've never wanted to do it for money. It's just, it's a passion of mine that, I really enjoy it. It's pretty cool to do what we do, and, to have a support group, I guess I would say, friends, family, even people we don't know that support us, and, that makes us feel like we're on the right path and that we're doing something right.
Absolutely, absolutely. How about you, Jesse? What got you into the paranormal?
Well, mine is kind of a little bit different than his. Mine actually started, I can remember the very first experience that I ever had. And I'll try to make it short because it's a little long, but basically I was around the age of 4 or 5 years old, and my parents, they worked the graveyard shift, so my brother and I, we would have to go stay with our grandparents. So I remember it was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and where they lived, we lived in a neighborhood, but my grandmother's house was kind of surrounded by woods. So I remember I got my little happy butt out of the truck, and I started walking up onto her porch, and down in front of the house was a very thin tree line. So it would have been to my left. I heard this laughter, and I can still hear it in my head, but to try to describe it to you is not gonna happen because I sound goofy when I try to do it. But it
Well,
basically,
now it makes me want to hear it.
well, okay. I'll do the sound version, but it was kind of like the whole wah ha ha ha, the generic evil laughter. I mean, I swear, and it was so evil sounding and so deep and dark baritone sounding that it literally scared the piss out of me. And so I froze and I looked down and I didn't, obviously as a kid, I didn't see anything. So
Mm-hmm.
I started like yelling for my grandmother, and I was knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, and she comes, she's like, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "Somebody's laughing at me in the woods." And she's like, "What are you talking about? It's 3 o'clock in the morning." And I'm like, there, a man just laughed at me in the woods. I said, "Is Papa in the woods?" She said, "No, he's in the bed." So basically, I had to make her show me that he was physically in the bed asleep. So she took me in the house and she showed me, and I told her what I heard, and still to this day, just something in me feels that was paranormal. I mean, I know you can sometimes rule things out. People will blame it on your imagination, you're being that young, but I mean, I will argue with you until I am blue in the face that was something paranormal because I heard it. And,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as the rest of my background, I've always kind of been the black sheep in my family, and my mama can tell you that, especially growing up in the South, like, I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in down here. So when I started growing up and, learning more about the paranormal, I was like, hey, this stuff is kind of cool, because I've always been a knowledge seeker. I've always been, I always want to know answers. I'm always asking questions. I mean, everybody can tell you that knows me, I will, get on your nerves asking some questions. So it's interesting to me that there is something out there that we can't see that can, you know, touch you or move things or, let you have a 5-second glimpse of their being, and it's just something I've always been so intrigued in. And, like I said, around here, it's kind of taboo, the paranormal and all that, especially with
Mm-hmm.
well, no offense to any Christians out there, but it's just I don't really know how to explain it. It just feels like a calling to me, and it's just I want to know as much as I can about it. And I've had several more experiences, as I got older, and now, and I've done so much research on it, and I've sat and, just tried to educate myself, and, we'd go to our local graveyard, and I'd bring my little camera, and I'd be like, oh my God, I got an orb, like that was exciting. And it was kind of, because I was watching, it wasn't, I can't remember the very first paranormal show I watched, but it was a group based in the UK, and they had a psychic medium, and I started watching it when I was around 12 or 13, and I just became so obsessed with that. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to go. But yeah, it was, I thought I was bad with my little camera. I had a little Kodak digital camera, and I'd go out in the graveyard, and I'd take photos, and, I would get orbs and stuff. I would take photos in my house. I said, oh, well, there's one of my dead relatives hanging out in the living room or something, or at the time, that's what I thought. But
right.
Because I know a heck of a lot more now than I did then, but it was still, every time I had an experience, I mean, it lit a fire in me that just nobody can put out. Probably one of the coolest experiences I've had is I saw something physically move with my own eyes.
Okay, yeah, tell us about that.
Well, it's kind of random, and I'm not going to name any names, but because she'll hear this, but so it was in, I want to say it was December of 2009. I was at my friend's house. It was an apartment, actually, and it was her mom, me, her, and her two sisters. And we were sitting there. Y'all gonna laugh at me. But we were sitting there waiting on the music video premiere of Lady Gaga and Beyonce's song Telephone. And, we were sitting there waiting on it. It was supposed to premiere at 5. So, in their house, you go into the living room, and when you walk in the door toward the right, there was a bedroom, and there was a calendar. And I'm telling you, this is random, so random, but she can tell you to this day that it happened. I mean, there was a calendar behind the door, and it had a highlighter on it. I'm sitting so that the door entrance to the bedroom would be on my left. Well, I'm sitting there, and I don't know. I just something made me. I don't want to say something told me, but some reason I looked toward the door, and when I did, I witnessed the highlighter come off of the hook, come around the door, basically kind of levitate around the door, and started, I don't even know how to explain it. It just flew into the living room and slid across the floor. And we all stopped and looked at each other. We looked in there, and her littlest sister was in the other bedroom playing. And so, brave me, everybody else was too scared. I got up to go look. There is no possible way that was her sister. And I sat there and physically watched this highlighter, pen, whatever you want to call it, curve around the door. And I'm like, whoa. And so it's kind of weird because we kind of believe that she has some type of spiritual attachment. Everywhere she's lived, they've always had some type of activity, which now they live in a whole new location, and she told me it was, I believe, Friday night, her light bulb over their kitchen table exploded in the socket. Now, logical me was thinking, maybe the fuse or the wires or something got too hot and caused it to explode. But she's like, no. She's like, she said it just exploded. So I told her, well, go cut the fuse off, go cut whatever. But it's just stuff like that. I've just always been into the taboo type stuff, the occult type stuff, the darker side of life. And, if you were to see me in person, you would look at me and be like, you wouldn't think, that's my kind of personality, that's my interest, because I look just like a normal person. And some say I'm kind of a goth girl at heart because of my music preferences and just the things that I like to do. So it's just pretty much, I mean, I'm always down for something paranormal, always. I don't know how to explain it, but it just hypes me up. It gives me so much adrenaline.
Well, that actually sounds like most normal people that I know. It's just a lot of folks don't have the guts to admit that they're into it. It's not so much that they're not, that it's abnormal. It's just that most folks don't they don't get as involved with it as folks like us do.
Right.
Is the truth of the matter. So how did you guys come together? How did y'all form up a group?
To begin with, it was me for the longest time. Like I said, I started at 15, so I was born in 2000. So I started the team in 2015. For the longest time, it was just me doing solo investigations, which can be scary and dangerous at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you're doing an investigation, you always want to have somebody there with you. Not necessarily in the same room, but you always want to have somebody else with you.
No, it's yeah, not just for safety reasons, but also for credibility reasons.
Yes, exactly. But and like I said, I don't recommend doing it by yourself for the reasons that you just said, credibility and safety. But like I said, for the longest time it was just me, and then I had two investigators join me from a house that I investigated back in September of 2017. Since then, since that investigation, we'd done a lot. We'd been on a lot of investigations and seen a lot of cool things. We had a seminar. We hosted a seminar with the Bama boys, Jonathan Hodges and Benny Reed. They're great people.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to them. They're real great guys, real funny. And like I said, we did a bunch of investigations. We did an investigation at the House of Dolls in Cortland, Alabama. But since then, they left for their own reasons. But shortly before they left, I had hired in three new investigators, and that would be Jessica, Sean South, and Walker Gibson. And Sean South, he actually has played on The Walking Dead, Stranger Things. He was the garbage man in the movie The Ant-Man. He's played in a lot of good movies and TV shows. He's played in Snaps. He's played in a few Disney movies and Marvel TV shows. But he's a really good guy to have on the team, and it kind of keeps us, it kind of keeps things interesting.
Mm-hmm.
For it's just he can tell us, about some of the things he's filmed or whatever. Of course, he can't tell us, what he's working on now. Which actually he is working on a project. He wouldn't tell us what it was, of course, and if he did, we wouldn't be able to say anything. But
Exactly.
I think that's pretty cool for us to have an actor that he's still acting. I think that's pretty cool to have, and especially being somebody that's been on very popular TV shows. I mean, The Walking Dead and Stranger Things. I mean, those are the two most popular TV shows out there right now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just pretty cool to have him on the team. And Walker, he actually has a lot of knowledge on the paranormal. And most people that I have that want to join the team, they don't really have much knowledge. I mean, their knowledge is minimal. They know what an orb is or what an apparition is, but as far as the equipment goes, they know the names, but they don't know how they function. And they really don't know. I call it the rules of an investigation, which we follow. They don't really know any of that. So I'm not necessarily starting from, ground zero or anything, but I'm building them up from what they already have and building on their knowledge. And Jessica also had, a pretty good bit of knowledge, from whenever we first spoke on the phone, before I hired her. But just to have these investigators that a lot of times I actually refer to them as family because they really are. We have each other's backs on and off investigations. We'll be there for each other, no matter what happens. And that's something you need to have whenever you're building a team. You want to have not just a professional relationship, but a friendship. You want to, these people are going to be, they're going to be watching your back. You don't want somebody that is kind of, well, I don't really like him, or he's kind of stuck up. You want them to be your friends, because
Exactly.
they rely on you, you rely on them.
Yep.
So that's just one of my tips that, I have for anybody out there wanting to start a team. You know, have a professional relationship with them, but also have a friendship with them as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I know the guys that I had working on my team when I lived down in North Carolina were as close to me as family, and we would do anything. To this day, we do anything in the world for each other. Just when you're doing an investigation, you're in a stressful situation to begin with.
Yeah.
You're constantly on the lookout for stuff. You have to know that the person that you're with is somebody that you can trust. So, and also you have to know that this is a person that's going to be honest with you. If they say that they experienced something, that they're going to be upfront with you. They're just not going to try to make things up or try to show off or anything like that.
Yeah. And that's one of our biggest rules is if you fake evidence once, you're going to be, I mean, you're suspended, for the
Hmm.
next investigations because we want our evidence to be 100% real as it can get. Um, and if you fake evidence after that, you're gone. And so I'm pretty strict, for the rules, but, I'm not like, I'm strict in the right ways. None of my investigators think of me as a boss or anything like that, but more as, a friend. Um,
Hmm.
so, I do lay some ground rules, like no faking evidence or anything like that. But other than that, that's really our main rule. And then besides that, we have take great care of the person that we're doing an investigation for. We
Hmm.
want to take care of them both before and after an investigation. Before the investigation, we'll call them every day or every other day, depending on how often they want to be contacted. And we'll
Right.
build. Has anything changed? Has the activity increased? Has it decreased? Uh, have you heard any more voices? Have you seen any shadows that you haven't seen before? And we'll just ask them those questions, just about every day or any time that we contact them. And then afterwards, we're like, okay, has the activity decreased or increased? Has it gotten more physical? Anything like that. And we just try to figure out, okay, what did this investigation do for them, as far as the activity goes? And then while we're doing that, we're also working on their evidence, which, you know, I'm, I, since I've started, I was always the one that worked on evidence. It's really kind of hard. Let me try to word this the right way so, people don't take this the wrong way. It's hard to
Hmm.
trust someone else with evidence, not because they're untrustworthy, but because I've been doing it for, since 2015. And, I know what to look for and I'm very observant. I mean, if anybody's going to, help me look over the evidence, it's going to be Jessica.
Right. Right.
Because she, in a lot of ways, she's a lot like me. And, I think that's why she makes such a great co-lead. And she's done a lot for us. She's, overall a great investigator and, I wouldn't trade any of my investigators for anybody else. And, I, in all honesty, I hope that they stay with us for years to come. I mean, even if they don't, I still want to keep a connection with them and stay in contact with them. And, that's very important because say if an investigator leaves and you stay in contact with them, they're more likely to come back, to your group. So if you,
Absolutely.
which me personally, I don't have, uh, I don't put any of my investigators on a pedestal or anything like that. I just, I congratulate them on, their work and they're, okay, you just got an EVP, great job. That sounds really great. And we'll try to figure out what question he asked. And if we, usually get responses with that question, then we'll, we'll use that question again, because sometimes we'll come up with a question that we've never asked before. And we'll
Hmm.
use it again in a different investigation, see if we get another response out of it. So if somebody finds that magic question, I'll be pretty excited about that. And, to get an EVP, it's pretty awesome. And, I like to congratulate them. And Jessica is actually empathic. So she can sense things. She's, ever since I've known her, I mean, she's been able to pick out a lie, and I'm not saying I've lied to her, but you can tell whenever, or she can tell when somebody's lying to her, or stretching the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And she can sense a lot of different energies as well. I mean, she can tell you, okay, there's there's possibly something bad here. But I mean, it's pretty cool to have somebody like that on the team. We've had somebody like her before, but not to this extent. Like I said, she's been a great investigator. All of my investigators have. They all have their different personalities, and I think that's what makes this team so great. I mean, we have all these different personalities, and we all kind of mesh together and form a family in a sense. And we all work together seamlessly, and that's another thing that a team needs to have. You need to be able to work together and not have any type of conflicts or disagreements. Of course, with the work we do, we're going to have disagreements. Hey, that EVP says, such and such. No, this EVP says that.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's just, you don't want to break out into an argument. But, as far as disagreements go, that's really the only disagreements we'll ever have. But, finding people like that work so great together, it's great. And I mean, it's not something that you just need to throw away, because one person could come onto that team and just mess it all. So you need to be very careful on who you bring onto your team. I mean, because that could cause a lot of stress on other investigators as well. Say this person, never shuts up, or thinks they know everything. That could cause a lot of stress on other team members, and during investigations, we're all not going to be at our best. But once you find that sweet spot where everybody works very good together, I wouldn't really focus on bringing anybody else into the team. And if you do, be very careful about it and make a team decision. Does everybody want this person on the team? And just try to find somebody that everybody can agree on. Hey, this guy's going to be a good investigator. If it's a unanimous decision, go for it.
So what then? Because obviously you've put a lot of thought into how you've constructed your team, and I know you've got Jessica who's empathic. Do you feel like you have to have somebody like that on your team, or do you feel like if you were putting together a team and you didn't have somebody that was empathic or that had any kind of special abilities like that, do you think you'd be as successful?
Well, I mean, really, as far as being successful goes, I mean, whether you have an empathic person or not, it's really on how you carry yourself, how you represent your team, and how good of a job you do. That makes you successful. I mean, if Jessica wasn't an empath, she would still be a great investigator. I mean, you can either have one or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Having an empath would be a plus to any team, but you really don't need to have no more than two. From what I've heard and from the research that I've done, their energy can cross and kind of not really. It's going to mess another team member's energy up. If that's making sense. I'm really not sure on how to word that.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I was your age, I was going to a lot of seminars on. This was the early days of haunting investigations. This was in the early '90s, and Ed and Lorraine Warren, who of course are world famous investigators, would do seminars, and I went to a couple of them. And of course, Lorraine is psychic. She's an empath. And she always said, she said the same exact thing. She never wanted more than one other person who had any kind of special abilities like that with them, because she said you get cross signals, which is exactly what you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a team of, let's say you had a team of 4 or 5 people, and all 4 or 5 of them were empaths, well, they could just be messing each other up and tripping over their own feet.
Yeah. And, if people look at empaths like their goals to paranormal research groups, and yeah, it's great to have one, but if you have too many of them, it's not going to work out. It's not. I've seen a team that that had 3 empaths on there out of 6 team members, and their team fell apart.
Yeah.
Not like in a literal sense, but they didn't really get any good evidence, and their stuff was just not very clear, and it kind of contradicted itself. And that goes for any team that has more than 3 empaths on their team. And it really depends on how many members you have. See, to a while back, and I'm still kind of thinking about that, of hiring in more investigators, or actually bringing more investigators onto the team, and have areas of service, separate areas, to where we can help people all over the Southeast. Areas in Mississippi, areas in Alabama, areas in Georgia, and all of them would have a co-leader. But it's only one empath per area of investigation, where it would be a district basically, and it would be an area team, not a full team of investigators. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, say there's an investigation in Atlanta, Georgia, Mike, Bob, and Billy. Billy's an empath. I go over to Georgia, or I get a co-leader over there. They're investigating this house over here. Meanwhile, over in Iuka, Mississippi, there's another team of Sally, Kim, and Brian, and they've got their own investigation. So I mean, it wouldn't be like all of us. Say there's 20 investigators all coming to one house, but I feel like that would help a lot more people rather, and kind of be a little different than any other team, because as far as I know, no other teams do that.
Right. The only time you hear of anything like that is obviously with the TV shows like the Taps Network. I know they have multiple teams and they kind of fall under one big umbrella and things like that. But you don't really hear a whole lot of that outside of the big name groups. So that's pretty ambitious on your part for sure. So what would you say then? Because one thing that you need if you're going to build a network like that is you need a core philosophy. What's your core philosophy then when it comes to investigations? And what would you say is your mission when you come in? Are you more we're just going to gather evidence, or are you actually trying to help folks out long term, or what's your end game when you go into a place to investigate?
Well, we're going in there to get evidence, first of all, but we also want to make sure that the homeowners are comfortable, whether they're there with us or if they left the house, stayed at a hotel or whatever. We want to make sure they're comfortable, and we want to get the best evidence possible to figure out who it is that's there and why they're there. Are they related to them? Do they live in that house before? And a lot of times, some of those answers never get answered during the first investigation. I mean, spirits are just like people. If I walked up to you on the side of the road and said, "Hey, are you related to so and so?" most people would say yeah, but be like, "Well, who are you? Why does that concern you?" I mean, it's just they kind of have the same mindset, if that makes any sense. And a lot of times spirits don't even know they're dead. And I know people have heard that before. So, and spirits, they're just like people in a lot of ways. The only thing is we can't, see them all the time, but they can still think. They can, tell you things, and that's been something that I've known ever since I've started. And a lot of hauntings are intelligent hauntings. As far as the ones I've done, most of them are intelligent hauntings. But I mean, every time we go into an investigation, we pray, or at least I try to remember that. Sometimes, depending on the investigation, what all's going on that day, sometimes you forget. Just like these 2 cases in particular, where we went into this house, we started an EVP, or we started recording on our EVP recorder, and we got Pray to God. 2 different voices on 2 different investigations that we both forgot to pray.
Wow. So so they're actually looking out for you.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, and that's probably one of my favorite EVPs I've ever gotten. But back to the philosophy, you want to take care of the homeowners, because if you don't take care of them, you treat them like crap, they're going to put out a bad word on you. And ratings for paranormal teams are a big deal. I mean, if you have a 2-star team or a 1-star team, people are going to be like, well, I mean, this team, I mean, they might be thieves, or they might treat you like crap, or might damage your property and not pay for it. I don't know about them. But then you see this 5-star team over here, and you're like, oh yeah, they're great. And you read the reviews on them, and we've got great reviews, which we try to have everybody that we've done an investigation for leave an honest review with some feedback. Tell us what we did right, what we did wrong, what would you change, what was your favorite part of the investigation, what was your least favorite, and of course some of those questions can't be answered if they weren't there, if they left the house for us to investigate. But most of the time they'll tell us that hey, these guys were really great, and they came in, did their job, and they got back with us the next day and thanked us. And that's something that you really want to have. You want to have people skills, because you're going to be working with all these different strangers, and you're going to be going into their home. That is their home. That is their safe place. And for them to let a stranger in, and to film and to be there all night up, and that's a big deal. And that's, you have to be trusted. And our ratings to us are, a lot. And we've been a 5-star group ever since 2015. We've never been below a 5-star. And, that's something that I really pride me and my team on. Which, of course there has been some people that, they're not really nice, but, you just gotta kind of go through with it. And, they're just gotta be nice to them, and, do whatever it takes to get that 5-star. I mean, you want to have that good rating. So that's really important. But, as far as taking care of the homeowner, and then, making sure you get the best evidence and getting it to them as quickly as possible. What most people believe, or what, I wouldn't really say most people, but what some people believe is that this is our job. And it's not. We all have our day jobs. We all have our jobs that we do during the week. This is not the only thing we do. And so we can't just stay up all day and then, work on your evidence. It's going to take a few weeks, depending on how much is there, how long we recorded, and depending on how busy we are. I mean, if we've got, an investigation after investigation after investigation, it could take up to a month and a half before we get your evidence sent to you. And, some people they don't really like that, but, they kind of get where we're coming from. And, if we have all these investigations, so we have 5 investigations we've got, and you're the last investigation we did. I mean, it could be 4 months before we get to your evidence, which of course we're going to be working as fast as we can. And any spare moment in time, we're going to be working on that. But, it's not something that we can do 24/7. I mean, like I said,
and a lot of people don't realize that when you have, let's say you're doing an overnight investigation and you're there for 6 or 7 hours. When let's say you've got 4 recorders going, that's 24 hours of recording that you got to go over. Yeah. And you're not just listening to it. You're listening, and you might hear something, and then you go back and you listen to it again, and you listen to it again. It could take you 50 or 60 hours to analyze 20 to 25 hours worth of recordings if you're quick. I mean, I've seen it where I've gone over, a 3-hour tape of an investigation, and it's taken me 2 days to do a 3-hour tape. So it is exhausting work. It's way more exhausting going over the evidence than it is doing the actual investigation.
Yeah, and you're sitting there looking at a dark screen, most of the time. After you've done the investigation, review, and evidence, you're looking at I mean, basically it's a still frame. I mean, if it's an X camera, you're just looking, okay, trying to see if things move, which looking at those is a lot easier because you can focus, on one spot and use your peripheral vision in the area around it to see if anything's moving, which is something that I use a lot, and it's done a lot for me. Because if your eyes are bouncing around the screen, you're going to miss stuff. So whenever I look at X camera footage, I focus in the center of the screen and I use my peripheral vision to see if I can see anything moving. You know, it would seem like if you're looking all over the screen, you know, you're gonna catch different stuff. But, you know, if an orb pops up in the top left and you're looking over in the bottom right, you're gonna miss it. Whereas if you're looking in the middle of the screen, you're gonna see the entire screen. You're gonna see, you know, what's in the middle, in your immediate vision, and then, what's on the outside through your peripheral. So that's actually been, it's worked very well for me. But whereas you're actually holding the recorder and you're walking around a room, you can't do that. You've got to, focus on a spot, rewind it, focus on a different spot, rewind it, focus on a different spot. And people do it differently. I've done a lot of different methods to where I just watch it like I'm watching TV and see if I can capture anything or see if I can see anything. And I mean, there's just been so many different methods that I've used. But, you know, for the best way to analyze the entire video is watch 15 seconds, look in one spot, rewind it 15 seconds, look in another spot. I mean, just analyze half the screen at a time per 15 seconds. And then in 30 seconds, you've analyzed both sides of the screen and you didn't see anything. So that actually doubles the time it's going to take you. If it's a, you know, 3-hour video, it's going to take you 12 or 6 hours to view the entire thing. But, you know, if you're getting the evidence as much as you can, it's worth it. Because if you're, the thing that really frustrates us as investigators is doing an entire investigation and only getting a couple of orbs. Because
Yeah, that's almost depressing when that kind of thing happens.
yeah, and you know, a lot of people don't understand, looking at a TV screen for hours at a time at a blank screen, or not a blank screen, but you know, there's nothing going on. It gets boring really quick. And, you know, sometimes you just got to take a break from it. Otherwise, you're going to miss stuff. You're going to start dozing off. And, you know, it's just not going to be as good of a turnout. You know, that's really all I've got to say as far as, you know, that goes.
Right. Well, and for anybody listening that's either an investigator, especially a new investigator, or somebody that's looking to get into it, that's what you just gave us a lot of incredible information that people like me who didn't really have anybody mentoring when we were coming up, you just saved them probably 2 years worth of frustration. So, hey Jessica, so when you're, because I know you helped do some of the evidence analysis, things like that. With you being able to kind of feel things a little bit differently than most other people, how much of that do you take into account when you're looking for evidence, or does that even play into it at all?
Well, normally I mean, like he said earlier, we're kind of alike in that, but, and I'm not meaning to sound I don't mean to sound cocky when I say this, but, there's a lot of things that I tend to pay attention more to than he does. And as far as, you know, I guess you would say I have an eagle eye, sort of. But I'm very detailed and very, very observant. But mine, now, you can, to the normal person, you know, if you go and you're going to a place and, you know, let's say you have a recorder, or, you know, you have like, here's where I look at it. If you have, like, you're recording something and you catch what you think might be an orb or something, you know, fly across the screen, or, you have to, like, you can't just say, obviously, you can't just say that's, you know, that was paranormal. I mean, you have to sit there and, like, look at the shape of it, the color of it, the size of it, the way it moves, you know, the transparency of it. And mine, I tend to use a lot of like my intuition as far as if something is, especially if you have something questionable. But I rely mainly not equipment, but like, some of the best equipment that you can take on an investigation or anywhere is yourself. And, some people are more in tune with their mind and their senses and everything and their surroundings and so on. So it's just mine. I go with what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing. And if there's a piece of evidence, I'm going to sit there and listen to it over and over and over again. And it's like I want to pay attention to every single detail. If somebody breathes, if it's one of us, I want to make sure if it's something, legitimate or if it's something that can be debunked. I strictly and he'll tell you I go with my feelings, and that's, whether it's paranormal or everyday life.
Have you ever had any situations where, because this is something that's happened to me, where you're going over evidence and let's say it's you and Dalton, and you say, look, I got a really strong feeling in this room. We need to pay attention to this specifically. And there was something there that you wouldn't have necessarily caught otherwise.
Oh, yeah. And here's kind of I'm going to clarify something. There's a little bit of a misconception, as far as, people being sensitive and stuff and, picking up energies or whatever. Because, most places have some type of residual energy. Whether it's a house that was built in the 1800s to, a brand new, home that was built in 2016, every place has some type of residual energy, I believe. And, when you go somewhere, like, obviously when you go to an older home or older place, you're gonna kind of go with a pre-assumption already of, okay, it's old, it's, potentially creepy, there's potential activity, so you're gonna go, in with a predetermination of, okay, I'm going to feel something. You have to, and most people, it's hard to distinguish that because, like I said, you're going in there and somebody says, well, Aunt Jenny Johnson's old house place is haunted and, it's scary over there. So you're automatically going to trip yourself out and think, oh, it's scary. So you're going to go in there kind of cautious, kind of like, on guard a little bit. But it's not like that. You can have a brand new, like I said, you can have, that house that was built in 2016 can be haunted. And it may not necessarily be the structure, it's the land.
Absolutely.
And that's what I try to, okay, I'm gonna break it down, but I'm gonna make it short. It's like every place, like I said, has some type of energy. And it's just because people have been there before, and it's, if sometimes you're given information about, wherever it is you're at, sometimes you're not. And you just rely on your senses. You rely on all 5 of your senses, actually your 6th sense, which is, the spiritual side, your intellect, your intuition. And I try to differentiate okay, so let me go over here. We're at this house. Okay, so we've been told numerous times it's creepy. Yeah, it's got the creepy vibe. But the best thing to do is, walk around. You see them do it. You see a lot of, mediums and a lot of, sensitives do it. And that's you're just kind of getting a feel. It's like every square foot of the house. You just kind of walk around, just kind of soak in the, territory, soak it in, see what do you feel? What are you sensing? Do you see anything? Cause, there's some people who can see things. I can't. I can just feel it. But, and a lot of people, it's hard, they're going to you're going to go up in there and be like, well, I feel a negative spirit, but that's mainly your fear. You're letting your fear or your anxiety kind of take over there. And so it's kind of complicated, and you just have to learn how to pull it apart and be like, okay, so I feel this room is the strongest. And like the top 2 rooms in a house is going to be the attic and the basement that creep people out the most. And which, there may not even be any activity in it. It may be like a bedroom or the kitchen. And a lot of times in a home, the kitchen is where a lot of activity takes place, especially like demonic, because I don't know what it is about them demons and them daggum cabinets, but they love to go in there and open them cabinets up like, I don't know. Like, that's just something that's always amazed me. 'Cause I mean, you don't go in your bedroom and your dresser drawers are open and your underwear and your clothes is all on the floor. It's always a kitchen.
I noticed that too, that for some reason kitchens seem to be the center point of activity in a lot of haunting cases. And I don't know if it's because the kitchen is kind of the heart of the house to begin with, or if it's just that there's a lot of stuff to mess with in there.
I know if I ever become a spirit and I go haunt somewhere, I'm gonna be hitting the kitchen up, because like I said, we don't know what it's like to be dead, but in real life, I eat like a pig anyway, so I'm probably gonna be raiding somebody's refrigerator, like snack drawers or whatever. I'm not even gonna lie, I'll probably be up in your house eating your Oreos and drinking your beer. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my Lord.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it's, and you're right, it is, and it's, I don't get it. Like, what's so special about the kitchen? I mean, food, that's number one, but in all seriousness, it does seem to be that way. And, because you don't ever hear of, like, really in living room or the bedroom. It's just the kitchen, and more or less either the kitchen or the basement. But like I said, basements and attics are going to freak people out anyways. And because it's like, ooh, it's creepy, dark, tight space. Oh my gosh, there's a ghost down there. Not necessarily.
I also wonder if it has to do with the amount of metal and water in those rooms, because I know bathrooms are another one that are really big hot spots a lot of times.
Yes, I was actually just thinking that the water, because water can conduct electricity, and spirits use electricity like crackheads use crack. That's where they get their energy from. That's mostly how they get their run and go. And you're right. I didn't even think about that, and especially and also the colder months with the electricity being more predominant in the air and everything. And I've always wanted to be like, I don't know. I'm kind of comedic, so I'm not like, I don't poke fun at it. I do a little bit.
But that's a good attitude to have. It's kind of a comedic attitude when you're doing investigation, because everybody can get very, very serious, and it is a very serious topic, and all of us take it very, very seriously. But you got to have a light heart about the whole thing too. Because things are going to happen. You're going to have somebody, bump into you when they didn't announce that they were in the room, and you're both going to freak out and probably wet your pants, and you just have to be able to laugh at it later on.
Yeah, and it's and also too, I'm 27, so Dalton's he's 18, so still teaching him a little bit, I'm just kidding. I'm poking fun at him, but no, it's like I said, I'm very outspoken, I'm very blunt, I'm very just carefree, but when it comes to talking to whoever it may be that's got the potential activity going on in the home, or even when we step foot into the home and the actual investigation is going on, I put all jokes aside and I focus, because I don't want these spirits to come when we come into these places. I don't want them to feel offended, or like, well, I'm just making fun of them because they're dead, and this is all they can do is knock a coffee cup on the floor, or say a voice here and there. It's like they don't.
Right.
They're trying to channel it, and it's like I know when to be serious, and it's like I want to go into these places and let them know, hey, I'm not here to make fun of you. I said, y'all may watch me daily or you see, but when the investigation comes on, like I want I want to give y'all a chance to be heard. I want, whatever it is, the reason why you're inhabiting this place, why you're doing what you're doing, because as Dalton said earlier, they used to be human. They used to feel. They used to have emotions, just like we did. Hurt, laugh, happiness, anger, sadness. And I don't want to belittle them just because they don't have a physical form anymore.
And if you had the philosophy that spirits or entities are people who have passed on, then you're as much a guest in their space as you are the people who physically reside there.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be rude to them.
Right. And it's kind of, and I don't want to say this, but kind of, okay. So kind of in reality, if you just want to, look at it from this angle, it is, you do have to kind of go in there with a, some type of manipulation. And when I say manipulation, you go in there and, these people, okay, the spirits, the people who have passed on, not talking about demons, because demons, that's a whole different ballgame, but like just a general spirit, they don't know you from Jack to Adam, just like you said, you come in, you gain their trust, and if you can gain their trust, you're more than likely going to get more evidence and better evidence. And it's because they, like I said, they don't know. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a spirit. I mean, part of me, I'm curious to know. I mean, I don't want to die anytime soon, but, I've always been drawn to that aspect of life. Death fascinates me. What happens to our soul fascinates me. How does the spirit become trapped here? That has always, and that's where my deep philosophical, excuse me, thinking comes in, because I'm a Sagittarius, and so we're knowledge seekers. And it's just, you have to break it down. Like you literally have to be like, okay, these were once people, and you have to treat them like people. And before I joined the group, I used to do my own little, investigations for fun. I mean, I didn't have all the fancy evidence. I just had a digital camera in my phone. And the reason I didn't have some equipment is because I didn't know how easily attainable it was. Like, I didn't study that side. I was so focused on the spiritual side, not the physical side of, the equipment. Where can I get it? And nor did I even try to ever seek anybody else out with the same interest that I had. So, I would go and, just with my phone and my camera alone, I have caught some pretty cool little pieces of evidence.
It's amazing the kind of stuff you can catch with just the most basic equipment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when I started off, I know you guys use a lot of equipment. When I started off, I had a reel-to-reel tape recorder and little camera, not a digital camera, just a regular camera, and that was my equipment. That was my fancy equipment. But I caught quite a bit of evidence using that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this before I lose it, because that's where I lost my. But when back to the other little subject about when you go on these investigations, and it really, I hope you don't mind me using this cuss word, but it really pisses me off to no degree. And I have been with people, and I say, look, we're gonna go to this location, and I want to be serious about it. Well, I've been with people, and they're over there making fun of it, and I can understand you're a skeptic, whatever, but please, just for a little bit, be respectful. Be respectful of these people who've passed on, because I want to show them that I'm here and I care, and I want, make their voice heard, just as in real life. And it just, when somebody doesn't take it seriously, or when they make a joke about it, and on an investigation, I mean, you can joke about it all day long around me, I don't care. But if I'm there and you're there, I'm going to call you out, because you're going to screw up what we're trying to do. You're going to piss them off, and it could potentially unleash something malevolent, because spirits, like I said, they feed off emotions. And, if you come in there with positive attitude, peace, welcoming, all that, you're likely to get better results. And that's where and Dalton tell you that, I just say what's on my mind, and I'm just not going to put up with it, because that used to be a human. that used to be somebody that had a physical body and a mind and emotions. And I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me, if I pass, whatever happens to me after I die. And it's just one thing that, because, Dalton said he wants to help people. I'm all about helping people too. I'm trying to get a career in law enforcement started, and it's the same aspect too. It's a lot of people forget, yeah, we want to help the homeowners, but don't forget about the spirits, because the spirits are there for a reason. They're doing this for a reason. So we've got to help them too. And that's one thing I'm just very passionate about. And, back to the, power folk equipment, the phone and the camera, probably one of the coolest pictures I ever caught on my camera, digital camera. It was a little Kodak. I don't even remember. But, there's a cemetery over here where I live. I'm actually from Hamilton, Alabama. Probably nobody's ever heard of it. I would think we've been in the news, like the national news twice. But anyway, there's a cemetery over here, and we have gotten, every time I go, just about, I get some type of activity. And Dalton went with me one day because I wanted to go, that since we had, actual equipment, I wanted to go investigate it. So I took him that day, and it was about 6:30 in the afternoon, and we got some pretty cool stuff with the REM pod and the EMF detector. But anyway, so I would go, and we'd always make it a tradition on Halloween. We'd go ghost hunting. We'd go to little local scary places around here, and I'd always bring my camera. Well, the cemetery I'm talking about is nicknamed Devil's Cemetery, and it's quite a creepy place, and there's nothing but straight up negativity there. The feeling, the energy, the whole everything is just negative. And we were out there. It was a whole big group of us. I don't know, 15, 20 of us. And I was snapping pictures. And my buddy had a little Chevy pickup. And he walked over there to his driver's side, and I snapped a picture. And I snapped like, I think 2 or 3 pictures back to back. And I went back to review it, and there was a man sitting in his driver's seat. Now, the image of this man was so clear. You could tell he had on glasses. You could tell he had on it would have been like a beigey off-white button-up shirt. He even had a comb over, and it was on, if you were looking at him, his comb over would have been on his left side, so it would have been going toward the right. And he was sitting there, and he had the most creepy, eerie-looking expression on his face. And what was weird is when the flash went off, his glasses caught the gleam of the flash, so I couldn't see his eyes. I could just see his mouth. And he looked like he may have been, I don't know, early 60s, and probably weighed 150 pounds. I mean, he was a very thin man. And I told my buddy, I said, hey, I freaked out, obviously. That was like one of the best pieces of evidence I've ever caught. I'm like, Bo, my buddy's nickname is Bo. I'm like, Bo, come here. There's somebody in your truck. He's like, what are you talking about? I was just over there. I was like, look, dude, I got this guy sitting in your truck. Sure enough, he's sitting there, and he's just staring at me. And I'll never forget that image in my head. And I've got that picture somewhere, but it's on a memory card.
Wow.
But it's just, and several people have seen it, and it's, and I'm the kind of person, I try to always back up what I say, and because I try to be as honest and as straightforward and legitimate as I can, and if I can find that picture, I don't know, I kind of have an idea of where the memory card is. I will send it to you, because
yes, please send that to us. We'd love to see that here. That sounds incredible. But to clarify, there was definitely nobody in his truck physically, right?
Nope. And if I could, if he was here with me, or if I could, add him to the phone call, I would. I mean, he would tell you that there was nobody. He went over there to get, cause see, he's a redneck, so he went over there to get his can of dip, and it's.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I love that. That's just perfect.
He is. He's a redneck. He's actually on our team, actually. it's not set in stone yet, but we're still trying to get some things worked out. But I also forgot I caught an orb. It was like a golden, orangey color orb above his head. Because actually, it's funny. He has the door open, and in the picture, the man is sitting in the driver's seat, and he is standing outside the truck. I can't remember if he's looking down or looking into the truck. But there was that orb above his head, and it was a big orb too. And I was like, he's like, you drive my truck home. He said, I'm not getting back in it. I said, I got my car to drive. Your ass is getting back in that truck. Don't be scared. You better get in that truck. And
Don't be scared.
yeah, don't be scared, boy. You a man. Anyway.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Oh, that's the kind of experiences that you can't really put that kind of stuff on your resume, but boy, it makes for a great story.
It does, and it's it's just that's probably one of the best pictures. Well, that is the best picture I ever caught. But one of the coolest things is seeing that thing move, that highlighter move off the wall by itself, and then actually this happened last year. We was at the same cemetery, and I actually have kinfolk buried there, and I knew that years ago, but I'd forgotten. And I don't know, I always get affected when I go up there. And always. And I don't know if it's just because my kinfolk, I don't know. But I hate that place, but I still love going back because I get activity. But me and three of my buddies, same redneck guy, Bo, we we went up there one night, and we were just sitting there, and I was like, I wasn't filming, I wasn't taking pictures, nothing, and I had my windows down, and I want to say it was around midnight, and it was a 3/4 moon that night, and I was sitting there, and they were kind of laughing and talking. I'm like, y'all shut up for a minute. So I'm sitting there, and I stick my head out the window, and I say, hello. Well, nothing yet. I said, is there anybody there? Your typical talk. Excuse me, talking to him. Well, after, I don't know, the 5th hello, I got a response back. And we physically heard it with our ears. And the best way I can describe it was the voice of an elderly man that sounded like he had the accent, the old, southern accent from like the, late 1800s. That Civil War accent, kind of antebellum style.
It's a soft southern accent.
Yes, like I do declare, that accent. Well,
right.
The response was, after I said hello, it was like, hello, like that. And I just got instant goosebumps. But I wasn't, scared. And something just told me, and, I still feel it today, that he was laughing at us. That he thought us being there was funny. And so I feel like he said it, hello, to be extra creepy sounding. I feel like he did it on purpose. And that's literally
I got goosebumps just hearing that, just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, it was like he was just like, and it was maybe, and it sounded like he was 10, 15 feet away from my car. And I was like, holy crap, I just got a response, and I actually heard it with my own 2 ears. And then everybody else did. Well, they got freaked out. They was like, let's go, Jessica, let's go. I'm like, no, no, y'all wanted to go ghost hunting, so we gonna do it.
Well, no, it just got interesting. Why are we leaving now?
Exactly. Because y'all heard hello from somebody you can't see. And it was like, well, hell yeah, let's go. I don't know what that thing looks like. And I was like, fine. So, and y'all may think I'm goofy for doing this, but I actually apologized to the spirit. I said, well, I know we were just making conversation, but my buddies are a little freaked out, and we're gonna leave now before they have a heart attack. And because I really can't afford a trip to the ER, so, and I don't know, but that was the only positive. It's weird, it's the only positive experience that I had up there. was that voice. But everything else has been kind of neutral or somewhat negative. And,
Right.
but that's why I have that feeling that he was just being funny, and he was just, just a lonely old man soul, just, you know.
That's a nice thought to have, though. That if again, if these are spirits of folks who have passed on, that we retain that sense of humor that in the afterlife, that it's not just moaning around and moving stuff, that you actually can laugh a little bit.
Yeah. And and that's what I try to be. Like, I still try to, connect with them on a personal level. And that's why, I go like, I don't go into these places with my guard completely down, because like, you could have somebody says, oh, we've got the spirit of a little girl, and, she's very playful. Well, what they don't know is that could also be a demon in disguise.
Yeah. That anytime somebody says something like that to me, every red flag I got goes up.
Yes. And so that's why you want to be careful, and obviously, study and interrogate the crap out of them and find out every single thing that happens. And that's why, and I'll say this, and then I'm going to let Dalton have the floor. But, this is another, okay, here's a little bit of advice, to someone who is kind of thinking, well, I kind of can relate to her, as far as like feeling stuff and sensing things. Go in there. Don't let your guard down. As soon as you feel any type, like if you go, just like I said, for the example, if someone says, we've got the spirit of a little girl, she makes her, she appears every now and then, and, she'll, whatever. What I want to tell people is, if you go, if you go on an investigation and you go somewhere like that, the first minute, second, or whatever that you feel any type of negative energy, feeling, thoughts, you better put that guard up, because not many people can feel that, because obviously the homeowners, they're just, but a spirit is going to allow you to feel what they want you to feel. A demon is going to, because they're 20 times more powerful than a human spirit. So it's like, the minute that you feel that negative energy, that's when you need to say, okay, I'm not saying it's demonic, but we need to kind of look at this at another angle. Don't just go in there solely relying on what they tell you. Trust your gut. If you go in and you, like I said, you feel that negative energy, put your guard up, protect yourself, because you are number one. Because if you get attacked, then you can't continue with the investigation, and then you're screwed, because you may have, a potential spiritual attachment of some sort that may be evil.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to tell folks that when I would go in, I equate it to I have a window open, and I can sense the stuff through this window, but I got my hands on the windowsill the whole time. And if something doesn't feel right, I slam that window shut hard, because I got to protect myself.
Exactly, because and it's just the same concept as, if you don't have healthy doctors, healthy police officers, first responders, EMTs, nurses, then who's going to help you? You know what I'm saying? It's that same kind of concept. It's, you have to protect yourself. Obviously, we're trying to help the people. We're trying to help, if there's good spirits trapped there or whatever. But ultimately, it does fall back on you. You have to be somewhat selfish in these investigations and protect yourself. And, there's I know that there's a lot of up and coming investigators and people getting into the paranormal. That's the best thing I can tell you, is don't let your guard down. Go in with an open mind. Don't go in with a predetermination of, okay, this is whatever. Keep an open mind, but yet keep your guard up. And it's kind of hard. That's something, I mean, it's complicated to be able to have both of those mindsets at the same time. And that's just something you've got to work on. You have to just, get in tune with yourself and just trust your gut. Now, I'm not saying nobody's perfect. Your gut's not perfect all the time, but your gut, your intuition is there for a reason. That is your subconscious way of protecting yourself
Yep.
and, foreseeing things that might, something bad might happen or, so.
Well, that's what disturbs me, and I, like most other people, I love the haunting shows, the ghost adventures, and
Yeah.
uh, ghost hunters, things like that. I love those shows. The thing that bothers me is how aggressive a lot of times they are, and how inviting they are to be personally attacked. And I'm just thinking that's the problem is if you want to do that to yourself, that's fine. But, and you guys are an example of this, there's a lot of folks coming up in the paranormal community now that are wanting to be investigators specifically because they see these shows and they see that, that this is something that can actually be done, that you can actually go out and capture evidence, but they're using those shows as the example of this is how you do that.
Right.
And it's not always the best way to handle it, in my opinion. Other people have different opinions, but I don't like being really super aggressive, and I definitely don't like inviting something to jump on me or attack me. And if it happens, it happens, but I don't ever invite it in.
Exactly. And when I was younger, like when I first got my driver's license and stuff, and I was going places, I didn't necessarily, I did kind of mainly rely on, the stuff that I saw on TV, which, now that's TV and they've got to do some things to make a TV show. They've got to keep ratings. That's understandable. And, a lot of the stuff on there is authentic, but it's kind of like you can't rely on that to, okay, like Zach Bagans. I hope you don't hear this, by the way. I'm a fan, but dude, you are so dramatic. I'm telling you right now, like, you could hear a mouse fart and it'd be like, Harry, did you hear that? Go in that dark crawl space. Like, I'm too pretty to go in there. And I'm like, dude, you have muscles on top of muscles, and yet you're scared of a little noise. And he sends Aaron or Billy or Jay in there. Like, really? And
Yeah. And I like Zach. I like Zach on a personal level. My daughter's got a huge crush on him. Has since she was 3 years old. I like what he does. I like him personally. I think that he definitely brings a lot of attention to the world of the paranormal. But yeah, he just, dude, why are you always sending Aaron in there? Go in there yourself.
he's so dramatic, and growing up when they first got started, in the mid 2000s, and I was sitting there watching, and of course I had a crush on him, and I still do. He is a nice looking guy, but it's like he kills the show for me now because he's so, like, he'll be so dramatic, and it's like, yeah, he'll take it seriously, but he's kind of, I'm not calling him out, but it's kind of, you're sending, like you just said, you're sending the wrong idea to these, people just getting into this and, like, busting up the house. Okay, demons, where you at? Come attack me. Where you at, Zozo? Where you at? Come get me. Where you at? You don't need to do that. That could be kind of
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
And I will say, if Zach is listening to this, and I hope he is,
Hey, Zach.
give me a call, Zach, and we'll discuss it. And Jesse, if you want me to, I'll put Zach in touch with you, and you and him can.
Yeah, do that, yeah. Because I'll be like, dude, look, I'm a female. I'm 5'3", 140 pounds, and you're like, what, 6'2", 180, 200 pounds, and you gonna send Aaron up in there? Aaron, I feel bad for you, dude, like, sometimes. But don't get me wrong.
Aaron's disposable.
Yes, he is. He's a minion. He's Zach's minion, but no.
Aaron is a great guy. Aaron really is a great guy.
I don't know. They're one of the reasons, and I will say this: they're one of the reasons that has kept my interest. There's other, Steve and Tango. They've been in it a lot longer, and Zach and his crew, and and I like to watch their shows because they're nowhere near as dramatic as Ghost Adventures. Now, Ghost Adventures is very comedic, and I can, sit there and laugh at it, and but everybody does it their own way, and and I'm gonna tell you, Dalton and I and the rest of the group, it'd be pretty dang cool for us to have our own show on the Travel Channel one day. We'll be the Redneck Ghost Hunters or something. I don't know, but
well, and as you know, the way that Steve Gonzalez and Dave Tango and those guys conduct their investigations are a lot more like what probably you guys are doing, and like what I did whenever I was doing investigations full time. They're you do goof around, you do joke around a little bit and stuff like that, but it's not nearly as like you said, as dramatic as some other shows make it look out to be.
right, and it and that's. And it's no, I mean, and Zach, like I said, dude, if you listen, I don't hate you at all. I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, it's just every team has their own style. And if you are ballsy enough to go in there like Zach does and, confront a demon face to face, okay, more power to you. But, there's several ways to come at a demon. Then, yeah, you kind of need to provoke it a little bit or in some aspects, but, you just, I don't know. It's a very, very sticky situation, and it could turn bad, quickly.
Right. You have to be smart about it the whole
Right,
time.
right. And I just don't want nobody, anybody listening or anything. I don't want somebody going in and, seeing doing what they see on TV, Zach and them, or some of these others like the Tennessee Race Chasers, which I'm actually friends with a couple of the guys from Mike and Scott, but it's kind of, they're more laid back. They're more, they're serious about it, but they're more laid back and they have fun. So it's like everybody has their own personality. Every group has their own, like I said, way of doing things. And I just don't want nobody to get hurt, getting the wrong idea. Like, do your research, study on investigations, the paranormal. I mean, go to the library, Google. I mean, you can't trust everything on the internet, but, that's where I've learned a lot of my information is personal experiences, talking to other people, the internet, books, TV, and I'm like a little sponge. I've tried to soak up as much as I can. And I've even studied on, some demonology stuff too, because like I said, that interests me, and and plus you can't have a paranormal team and not have knowledge about demons. You just can't. You can't, because I mean, if you put a team together and you don't have at least one, if not two people on the team, and y'all go up, it could be a mess. And
and you're going to run. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, you're going to run into that at some point.
Right.
You can't avoid it. No.
And that's sad, but it's kind of almost it's almost like we all try to look out for each other, but then again, it's kind of like almost every man for himself, so to speak. It's like who's got the best common sense, and that's just what I try to have. They think a lot of us Southerners, we don't have common sense, but and some of us don't. Some of us don't. But
there's a reason here. Hold my beer is the thing.
Exactly. Hold my beer. Let me put my hair up and let me go.
But you know what? That happens in New Jersey too. So, hey Dalton, I know we kind of, I don't want to say we've been ignoring you, but we've been letting you just sit along the side. I did want to ask you because I know you're the lead in your group, and because we've been talking about the TV shows and the predominance of the paranormal in the pop culture, a lot of people have an idea of what's going to happen with an investigation. Have you ever run into anybody or into any misconceptions when you're going into an investigation, and how do you handle things like that?
Well, I mean, we really haven't had any misconceptions that I can think of right off the bat. I mean, other than, I mean, people thinking all spirits are demons, which is not true. I mean, it's just simply not true. And I mean, even in the Bible, it says that spirits exist, and spirits, demons, and angels are all separate beings. But I mean, that's really the only misconception I can really think of, about anything like that.
Well, I know, as a Christian myself, I know y'all mentioned about, the kind of for lack of a better term, the backlash you get as a paranormal investigator from some Christians, and ghosts are biblical. I mean, when you look in the story of David, they called up the ghost of Samuel to confirm David as king. So it's a biblical thing. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't. This should be an area of expertise for you, not something for you to lash out against. Personally, that's just my personal philosophy.
And I believe that 100%. As a matter of fact, I actually tell people that, if you believe in God and you believe in the Bible, but you say spirits aren't real, that's just, you can't. I mean, that's a contradiction. You're saying that God's real, and you're saying that you believe in the Bible, but yet spirits aren't real. I mean, it says plain as day in the Bible. I mean, in many different parts throughout it. I mean, it mentions spirits. But I mean, it's just a big contradiction. I mean, if you believe in God but you don't believe in spirits.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly the way I've always felt that way, and I've gotten some flack about being heavily into the paranormal from some Christian friends of mine. But when I explain it to them, they're like, oh, okay, well. Because a lot of times they think that you're dabbling in things, and now you're doing serious investigation. You're trying to actually gather evidence, and you're trying to actually, I don't want to say prove the existence of, because it's kind of a thing you can't really prove. But you're trying to gather as much evidence as you can, not only to legitimize what you're doing, but also to help the folks whose home you're in.
Well, guys, that's where we're going to have to cut off this conversation. It's pretty much at the halfway mark, but I will tell you that at this point of our talk, we started getting into a little more dark areas where we started talking about some future investigations that they are going to be doing. We went into some areas where we were talking about places that have potential demonic activity, which I felt like was better suited towards maybe the second episode. And then also we went over some EVPs that they were kind enough to share with us. So you guys make sure that you tune in next week and catch part 2 of this great conversation with Jessica and Dalton. You will not be disappointed, I promise. That being said, I do appreciate you guys listening to us this week. If you're on Facebook, check out our page, True Paranormal the podcast. Give us a like and let us know that you're out there. We've got a lot of information on our Facebook page, not only just old episodes and things like that, but we have a lot of articles on there and some funny memes and whatever we could just kind of throw at the wall that we think you guys might enjoy. Also, if you're on Facebook, make sure that you guys connect with Jessica and Dalton. That they're at Southern Souls Paranormal on Facebook, and we've got all the links to all of their stuff on our show notes. But make sure that you guys check their page out and give them a like and let them know that you heard about them on True Paranormal. I know that they would love to hear from you guys. If you're on iTunes and you're listening to us, be sure to subscribe and give us a rating and a review if you get a chance. Also, we're on Google Play and all kinds of other platforms. Wherever you're at, let us know that you're out there. And also follow us on Twitter at True Para Podcast. You could also just search for True Paranormal the podcast, just like you would any other time. And we're right there. Give us a little check mark and say howdy if you get a chance. I'd like to thank you guys for listening to us this week, and every week for that matter. Be sure to join us again next week for part 2 of our conversation with Southern Souls Paranormal, right here on True Paranormal, the podcast.